With Matthew Maggio's dominance in the OHL, I think it's important to talk about how actually impactful overage players are in the OHL. As you know, Matthew Maggio is an overage player at the OHL level. That's not anything new, and he's not the only player like that. You're allowed to have up to 3 overage players per team at the CHL level. So that includes the WHL, the OHL, and the QMJHL. So max 3, and they've typically all got 3 overage players on the team. And by overage player, that's someone who's going to turn 20 years old by, I believe it's January 1st of that year, but I like to look at it as of December 1st of that season. Who's turning 20 by December 1st? And so that counts Matthew Maggio. And so what we hear all the time is, well, he's 20 playing with 16 and 17-year-olds. Of course he's going to dominate. And well, that's just not necessarily true. Now, veterans of the channel will have known that or known this already because I did a video similar to this when Williams Full was going through the same rigmarole. Well, we're going to go over it kind of and look at just Matthew Maggio and the OHL specifically because we looked at the QMJHL. Is it any different at the OHL level? And now with Matthew Maggio, we're already kind of familiar with his production, and just in case if you're not, I've got it here. You can see he's got 109 points in 64 games with 52 goals. Just incredible levels of production from Matthew Maggio. When you do the math, let me just put it up here so everyone can see that I'm doing the math. So 109 over 64, 1.703 points per game for Matthew Maggio this year. Now, is that rare or is that common for an overage player? Well, I think what we need to look at, there's my computer, is what do we, like, well, obviously we've already defined what an overage player is, but like how many of them are there? Again, max 3 per team. And so in the OHL, there are 12.3% of the league is an overage player. That's it, 12.3%. Yes, there are a lot more, there are not a lot more, there are more 16-year-olds, but we're talking about 16% of the league. So roughly about the same. And again, this is as of December 1st of 2022. Roughly the same. 3 guys per team. And you have to remember that these 20-year-olds aren't necessarily lining up against these 16-year-olds constantly. That's just not going to happen. You're going to have your best players up against their best players. That's just how it works. And when you see the distribution of ages in the OHL, you got 22, 27, 21% for 17 to 19 years old. Yeah, this is a little high, but it's not really that high. Most of the league is here. This is most of the league, 27 to 22-year-olds, and not 16 to 17-year-olds. And now when you compare and contrast Matthew Maggio's production to that of other 20-year-olds, well, so the average 20-year-old or anyone who's 20 or over, and by like number of days, anyways, everyone who's over 20 years old is at a 0.96 points per game on the season. We've already determined that Matthew Maggio is at 1.7 points per game, which means, let me just do the math here. I've done it already, but I want to show you type of thing. The math is 1.703 minus 0.96. Matthew Maggio is generating 0.74 points per game on average above the average 20-year-old player, which when you combine or multiply that over the number of OHL games in a season, he's producing an extra 50 points over the average 20-year-old player. What are we talking about here? And like hone in on that a little bit more. When it comes to the number of 20 or 20 above year olds that are over a point per game, there's only 12 in the league. 12. That's it. And he's one of them. So there's another 11 guys in the entire OHL who are above that rate. That's just not a whole lot of players. And then in terms of the top 10 scoring in the OHL, only 3 are 20 or older. So what are we doing exactly when we say that these older players are, of course, putting up better points? They're playing against younger players. Sure, I guess, but it's not like the league is full of these younger players. And it's not like just because you're an older player, you're going to dominate. That's just not the case. You might perform well, but you are not going to dominate in the way that Matthew Maggio is dominating right now. Now, of course, this doesn't mean Matthew Maggio is better than all the overagers, thus he will be a better pro. That still remains to be seen, but we can be justifiably excited about what this player is doing currently in the OHL and what that could translate to going forward, because there aren't a lot of guys doing with what Matthew Maggio is doing regardless of age. Thank you for watching. Thank you for following. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button. And if you have already, or just because you've watched this video, thank you, thank you, thank you.